Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Tusk Top.
DJ PK and Caleb Kanales joins us now. He's the new basketball coach at Weber State. Caleb, good morning.
DJ PK, good morning. Thanks for having me, man.
Thanks for coming on. So we understand college sports is changing big time. It's a little more like the pros, and you got to have some money, and you got to have some glitz and glamour. You have a tie to Damian Lillard. We know Lillard has a title with the organization. This has got to be part of your plan as a new guy coming in going forward. How is this going to work? What is this going to look like? What should we expect?
Well, we want to get the Purple Palace rocking again. You know, that's going to take a team effort from top to bottom. Just so grateful for the opportunity, excited, attacking these past couple of weeks and building out a roster. But it's never going to change. You know, we want the best student athlete that's going to be fit for our university and a fit for our program going forward.
And so that's going to take some work. I believe you had 9 guys transfer out, and so far, correct me if I'm wrong, because things change every day, if not every hour. I think you've got 3 transfers in. Is that accurate?
I think they're still fluid, so I wouldn't even be able to tell you exactly because it can change here in the next hour or so. But, we've just been aggressively attacking and identifying, and our coaching staff and myself and the whole team has been doing a great job of getting the player, and like I mentioned, the student athlete that we want, to win and to win big here at Weber.
We just had Eric Kerr, the new Weber State football coach, on yesterday, and we were talking with him. You know, if you're not at the very top or the very bottom, there's always a risk you're going to lose guys. And there are always going to be guys out there who maybe have the talent and have the measurables, but maybe they don't play the way you want. Maybe they don't play well in the sandbox with others despite their talent. Maybe they're not good in a team setting and all that. With literally thousands of names in the transfer portal, how do you go about evaluating all the stuff that you just can't see in the stats and maybe see quickly in the film so that you get the right people?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're going to dive into the film, and that's what we've been doing nonstop. But you bring up a lot of great points. Like one of our mantras here, a saying that I love that I learned a long time ago is champions adjust. We're going to have to be adjust. We're going to have to adjust on the fly. We're going to have to be fluid. We're going to have to be flexible and stay liquid in a lot of situations. But I know what we want it to look like, how we want to be elite on both ends of the floor. There's a formula here. And like you mentioned, I mean, you still have to pick the right player, but more importantly, you have to pick the right human.
Kevin Young down at BYU, when he took over, he was talking big time, and he had come from the NBA ranks as an assistant. You have experience there, 18 years, I think it was, including 23 or so games as the interim head coach of the Blazers. And so what Kevin did with some of his guys, particularly AJ DeBanza, who grew up in terms of, the favorite player being Kevin Durant. Well, he coached Kevin Durant, so he had Kevin make some contact, and he got Chris Paul and Devin Booker, and those guys are big time, at least 2 Hall of Famers. We'll see what Booker does when it's said and done, and use those as connecting points to get him players. You have the availability. Your Rolodex is very impressive, not just Damian Lillard, but I'm sure there's plenty of other guys. Do you anticipate being able to use that as an advantage in recruiting to get young fellows to commit to Weber State?
Yeah, one of the cool things, I thought you were going to get me in trouble and ask me for my favorite player over my coaching career, and you were going to get me in trouble here today. But, no, listen, I mean, those relationships that I have with a lot of guys that I've been able to coach, obviously Dame, Brandon Roy, Vince Carter, Jamal Crawford, Dirk, LaMarcus Aldridge over the years, Hall of Fame guys. The cool thing about it is that I have relationships with those guys for life, and a big part of it is, some of the cool stuff is a lot of the guys that I coach, their kids are coming up now. So that's been pretty cool to see. But, yeah, no, listen, I mean, life is about relationships, and obviously where we are in college basketball right now, it is such a great level. Everybody's excited about it as it should be, obviously coming out of a great Final Four. But, it continues to get better. And like I said, I think the guys that I've coached, will be in communication for sure.
How do you like to see your team play, or does that not matter? Are you the kind of guy who waits until you see the roster to decide how your team is going to play?
Yeah, good question. I think the answer is always somewhere in the middle, right? Like, we have an identity, we have a style of play. We want to be attacking on both ends of the floor. And if you study the history of the game, the champions usually have a similar formula. You have to be elite on both ends of the floor. You just have to. I think when you are, better offensively and defensively, there's a lot of deficiencies that usually don't carry you to a championship, a conference championship, or a Final Four championship. But we want to be elite, on both ends of the floor. We know it's going to take a lot of work. But to your point, I also have an idea of the player that we want to bring in here to fit the system. But I also want to know what our strengths are, right? Because I do want to play to our strengths and to the player's strengths. So I think it's going to be a hybrid in terms of us figuring it out. But my expectation is, for us to win and to win big.
How can you go about making connections with the local high school coaches and players and the AAU folks who do that stuff?
Yeah, we already started doing it. I mean, we're aggressively attacking. We want to keep the best players in Utah home here at Weber State. It's already been the priority for myself and the staff. And we have to be present. We have to be visible, right? And that's on me. But I know a lot of people here have family close around the areas, close around the ties, closer to us. But, yeah, no, that's something that it's a big time priority for me. I want to keep the best players in Utah here at Weber.
For those of us who've been here a long time, and that's definitely the two of us, everything has changed because the best players in the state used to go to Utah and BYU, and they were really good in the WAC, and they were really good in the Mountain West at both schools, and now they're in the Big 12, and the bar is just so high. There are good players here, but they're not Big 12 quality. At least they're not Big 12 quality as freshmen and sophomores. How comfortable are you with the pitch? Come here and play for a year or two or three, and as you develop and as you have success, trust it. The calls will come and will help you when the time is right. How comfortable are you with that pitch?
Yeah, it's such a deep question. I think first, like you mentioned, I mean, there is a lot of good players in this state, and the credit goes to the high school coaches. They've done a phenomenal job over the years of developing these guys, and, all the AAU coaches, the elite AAU programs, select teams, travel teams, the parents that have invested in it. I think you're starting to see the fruits, player-wise, of the hard labor that they've done the past 10 to 15 years. There's no question about it. But like I said, we want kids to want to stay here for 4 years. We want kids to want to get their degree from our university because we have full confidence that we're going to have the best player development program in the country, and then we're going to win and win big. And that's going to take for us to keep, the homegrown talent here and rock the Purple Palace once again.
We talk about coaches, assistant coaches having specialties and also being able to recruit, get some local guys on there. I just wanted your thoughts. I believe you're retaining at least one. Get your thoughts on what your staff is going to look like.
Yeah, Jorge Reese, just been phenomenal coach for us for the program for the past couple of years. He's staying in his hybrid role as assistant general manager and assistant coach. Obviously we hit the ground running with his ties and his connections locally and around the state. But, all our coaching staff, as we round it off, everyone's going to recruit, everyone's going to player develop, everyone's going to game plan. This is a team, and this is a program. So everyone's going to have the same responsibilities. I know sometimes football does it a little different, and us basketball coaches, we study football coaches so much, and I can't it's different, right? You just don't have that many players. It's not two sides of the ball. Like the five guys on the floor have to play both ends. So as much as we want to divide responsibilities, our game is a little different. So, all our coaches, their responsibilities are going to be top to bottom, very active, at a high level.
Caleb Kanales joining us. He's a new basketball coach at Weber State. So you grew up in Laredo, Texas. Man, TV
Yes,
shows,
sir.
music, crazy, just all the stuff. And I was curious, we have seen a lot of athletes from Texas come to Utah and play. How much do you plan to recruit there? What are your ties? You were with the Mavericks for 5 years, but you've also been all over the country, Orlando, Indiana, New York, Portland. You've literally coached all over the NBA. What are the ties like in Texas? What kind of emphasis do you want to put on that state?
Yeah, no, deep ties, there in Texas. Obviously, have lived there a long time with my family and I. But, No, listen, our roots are here. And like you mentioned, I've been fortunate enough and blessed enough to coach all over the country. So, our ties are pretty deep. As you guys know, college basketball is an international sport now. I have experience internationally. So again, the phone calls that I've been getting these past couple of weeks, are from everywhere in the world. So I feel very confident that we're going to be able to recruit the right type of player and the right type of student athlete that we want for our program. But again, like I said, we're going to aggressively, attack the recruiting here in Utah.
Dive a little bit deeper into your background. I was going to hit you up on the internationals, but you just addressed it. As I understand, you did not play college basketball. So how did you get to where you were and where you are?
Yeah, super blessed. Like when I found out that I had a conversation with myself and found out, man, you got to be really good to play Division I basketball. And I had a good high school career, solid. But yeah, no, I started, I figured what the next best thing after playing was coaching. So I started, studying coaches in the NBA, how they were getting their start. A lot of coaches, like Eric Spoelstra, studied him really, really deep. He started his, I think he did play college basketball. I think he might have played a year or two in pro, but he started in the video room, so I figured, I can start in the video room and just started, grinding it out there. And, in Portland, was fortunate enough to be there 10 years. I think basically probably covered every position there that there was. And then, like you mentioned, with the Mavs, with the New York Knicks, with the Pacers, I've coached internationally before with the Mexican national team. So, yeah, my journey's been, I'm really grateful for my journey. I feel like I've taken the stairs, and ready for this opportunity.
I'd love a couple stories about your days coaching the Mexican national team. International sports, there are crazy stories. And where it really overlaps with college, I do want a crazy story, by the way, but where it overlaps with college is finding these kids who are dual nationals, right, because of a parent or grandparent. They might not be living in the country that they're going to represent. You have to, through your network, find those players, and it seems like that's a little bit like going in the transfer portal.
Yeah, no, like you said, I feel like, my network, because of my experience and been all over, is pretty deep and strong. But like you mentioned, college basketball at its peak is very similar to international basketball when you're trying to qualify for the Olympics. Like you mentioned, obviously played in a lot of cool, crazy places, man. It's intense. It's like an NBA playoff game, like an NCAA tournament. We just lost to Nebraska here a couple of weeks ago at Troy, and it was intense, man. You guys see it on the TV and you guys see it live, but every possession matters, right? And obviously in college basketball, very similar to international, there's not as many games as in the NBA, so I think every game takes a different level of intensity. We want to obviously in our program be ready for that. But, yeah, like you mentioned, the international piece connected to the college, there is a lot of similarities to it, no doubt.
So you don't have any particular ties to Utah, but you have the tie to Damian Lillard, and probably 100 years from now, he's still going to be the most famous Weber State alumni basketball player. And I'm wondering how that came about, your interest, and how much I assume he had an involvement. Yeah, no,
like you mentioned, Dame, I mean, obviously he was my rookie there in Portland when I was with the Blazers, and we drafted him. I think the summer, actually, heading into the draft, I was the interim head coach because it was between Terry Stotts and I, the final two, and then they gave the job to Terry, and Chad Buchanan was our interim GM at the time before they hired Neil. But yeah, no, obviously, have had a deep relationship about Dame, and not only is Dame a Hall of Fame point guard, he's a Hall of Fame person, and his passion and his care for the program, is awesome. It's awesome to see. So yeah, no, I'm excited to be right next to him as we kind of grow this thing back to the top.
I don't know if I think a lot of people in Ogden know, but I don't know if around the state they know how deep his ties run in Ogden and how meaningful that was to him at that point in his life. The people at the school, multiple people I've talked to, absolutely blown away when they found out that he was volunteering at the Boys and Girls Club and was way in deep. I mean, he was given a lot of time of himself. And they got a call from the Boys and Girls Club, and they're like, what are you talking about? We didn't set that up. And they're like, yeah, we know you didn't set it up. He was in here setting it up. And the way he connected with students, which is not an automatic, especially in this era, it was student government that set up a street party. They closed streets and opened theaters downtown. And his draft was, I mean, there were theaters packed. There were people. It was like a county fair with all these booths and everything short of carnival rides. It was just amazing. It's such a deep tie, and that's why we started, like, how involved is he going to be? Because I don't think he's just going to be a name on a door and some guy who swoops in, 2 nights a year. It's going to be way more than that, but I don't know what it's going to look like because he's not retired yet either.
Yeah, he's our general manager, and we're excited about that. But, the story you mentioned, like I mentioned, aside from the Hall of Fame player that he is and his career is going to continue to go, and hopefully he gets a championship that he deserves. But he is just one of one as a human, like you mentioned. I mean, he is just authentic and real person as it gets. And, like the stories you mentioned, that's who he is, and that's who he's always been. I still remember, and again, I won't bore you guys with the stories, but I remember his draft workout when he came in for his workout, and me and him started watching film together, and just how he took responsibility, how he was coachable. I think that's one of his secret sauces to this day, is that he is one of the most coachable superstars in the world. And I think, like you mentioned, this place, this city and this state, it means a lot to him. And, I'm excited to carry the tradition here at Weber.
It's funny that it turns out that you're going to have a new football coach and basketball coach at the same time. Both cool. of you are of the same age. He'll turn 47 this year. I believe you're already 47. And I've known him for about 20 years, speaking of Care, and he's as cocky as all get out. So I don't want to make sure that you take a backseat to him whatsoever. So go ahead and win the Big Sky in your first year and put him in his place, okay?
That's gonna be my guy, man. We're gonna do it together. I'm excited. I'm excited about his program and his vision. And you guys know college sports, man. Like it's pretty cool when you can do it together as a university and as an athletic program. Obviously our athletic director Tim and our president Leslie Durham. We're all fired up and we're excited, and we know it starts with football. So we're going to be out there and supporting our coach and our team.
Well, we appreciate a few minutes. Thanks for joining us. We look forward to you putting the roster together. It is just so interesting how people try to cobble the pieces of the puzzle together. Good luck with that, Caleb, and we'll look forward to talking to you again down the road. Okay, appreciate it. Love to have you guys out for a game anytime, but appreciate you guys. All right, there's Caleb Kanales. He is the head coach at Weber State as the Wildcats hit reset, and Damian Lillard is the GM. How will he help recruit players? And whenever he does retire, we'll see how he's coming back from a major injury here, but an injury that players are doing a much better job of coming back from than they did even 10 or 15 years ago. It seems like they're making a lot of progress. Yeah, he's a little older now, though, so we'll see how that plays out. And he's a guard. It's all about the horses in basketball. You've got to get the players. And we know they've had players. We can remember. I remember sitting in Taco Bell Arena, whatever it's called now, in Boise when they beat who was it? Oh, yeah, I think it was North Carolina, wasn't it? And yeah, of course it was. And the place in the press room was going nuts. Yeah, because obviously that is the classic David and Goliath there. And if I remember, didn't Duke fans sell out Weber gear at the bookstore or something? Yes. Wasn't that the story? Yeah, and that was like the second time they'd done it in 5 years, because earlier they'd beaten Michigan State. Judd Heathcote was right at the end of his run, and that was a massive deal. And I think the year they beat Carolina, didn't they play Florida, I think, and lose an OT? Yeah, because Georgetown beat them the other time. And they played a bunch of big dogs and gone toe-to-toe. Iverson shot an air ball, and one of their big kids grabbed it and threw it into the buzzer to give Georgetown the win. I think Weber missed a free throw with like 10 seconds left or something. And Damian Lillard isn't the only pro that they've had, obviously. No, not at all. They've had a long line of good players. Players who've gone on to be good coaches. They've got a proud basketball history. You can go back to Phil Johnson was there. Oh, even in those days. The world was a little bit different then, but yeah. I think Eddie Gill is Eddie Gill does the
announcing for commentary for Indiana, the Pacers.
Yeah,
something like that. So
a lot of
if
big
they can
names
get the
every
guys,
decade.
then they have an opportunity to win. But it's not funny, funny, but it's sort of I don't know what the word would be, unique or what have you, that it's a new day for sports, the two big sports at Weber, with the two brand new coaches who one obviously won at an extremely high level at the high school level. And then you're getting someone at Weber State who's been in basketball for a long time, 18 years as an NBA assistant. That's impressive.